हेलो डियर लर्नर्स, वेलकम टू माय चैनल एम्ब्रेस बायोटा। आज के लेक्चर में हम फंजाई के इम्पॉर्टेंट पॉइंट्स को डिस्कस करेंगे। जैसा कि आपको पता है, हमने HPU M.Sc बॉटनी एंट्रेंस के लिए एक सीरीज स्टार्ट करी है। ये उस सीरीज का 4th लेक्चर है। अगर आपने फर्स्ट 3 पार्ट नहीं देखे हैं तो आप प्ले लिस्ट में जाके उन्हें देख सकते हैं। फर्स्टली, स्टार्टिंग विद द इम्पॉर्टेंट पॉइंट्स ऑफ फंजाई। Kingdom fungi is introduced by R.H. Whitaker. Fungi is known as vegetable vulture or natural scavengers. The study of fungi is known as mycology. Fungi को define करें तो fungi is non-chlorophyllous, avascular, heterotrophic organism. Fungi is non-embryophyta, that is, there is no embryo formation in fungi. Also, the body of fungi is not differentiated into true root, stem and leaves, so we call fungi as thallophyta. Term fungi is given by Bauhin, and the father of mycology is P.A. Micheli. He wrote about fungi in his book Nova Plantarum Genera. मॉडर्न माइकोलॉजी के फादर की बात करें तो वो है डी वेरी. द फादर ऑफ इंडियन माइकोलॉजी इज E.J. बटलर. ब्लैक्सले ने कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ हिटेरोथैलिज्म को डिस्कवर करा था इन फंगस म्यूकर म्यूसिडो. फंजाई की हैबिटेट की बात करें तो फंजाई इज कॉस्मोपॉलिटन इन डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन. फंजाई प्रेफर टू ग्रो इन डार्क, डैम्प एंड वार्म प्लेसेस. एक्वेटिक फंजाई में हमारे पास क्लास फाइकोमाइसिटी के मेंबर्स इंक्लूडेड हैं. कॉप्रोफिलस इज द फंजाई विच ग्रोज ऑन द डंग. Examples are Pillobolus and Mucor Mucido. Keratinophilous fungi love to grow on hair and horns. Example include Chrysosporium species. And the lignophilous fungi prefer to grow on wood. Rest of the fungus species are terrestrial. Smallest fungi is yeast, complex fungi is mushroom, largest fungi is Ganoderma and giant fungi is puffballs. अब बात करते हैं फंजाई के थैलस स्ट्रक्चर की. द बॉडी ऑफ फंजाई इज मेड अप ऑफ थ्रेड लाइक हाइफी. द नेटवर्क ऑफ हाइफी इज नोन एज माइसीलियम. हाइफी की बेसिस पे हमारे पास फंजाई यूनिसेलुलर, मल्टीसेलुलर और फिलामेंटस फॉर्म में एग्जिस्ट करती हैं. यूनिसेलुलर फंजाई कैन बी यूनिसेलुलर यूनिन्यूक्लिएट और यूनिसेलुलर मल्टीन्यूक्लिएट. एग्जांपल ऑफ यूनिसेलुलर यूनिन्यूक्लिएट इज yeast and Syncytium, whereas the example of unicellular multinucleate is Myxomycetes. हाइफी की बात करें तो हाइफी कैन बी aseptate और septate. Aseptate means without any septa, whereas septate means the septa is present. In aseptate, due to the absence of septa, multinucleated condition is seen. The specific name given to the multinucleated aseptate condition is cenocytic. The members of the class Phycomycetes comes under aseptate fungi. In septate fungi, compartmentalization is present, that is, the body is divided into septa and each septa consists of the nucleus. Based on the nucleus, the septate mycelium is of two types: septate uninucleate, also known as monokaryotic, and the septate dinucleate, known as dikaryotic septa. The members of Ascomycetes, Basidiomycetes and Deuteromycetes all shows the septate uninucleate conditions. And the dikaryotic septa is the feature of Ascomycetes and Basidiomycetes. The septa is further of 3 types. The solid or hollow septa is present in Deuteromycetes. In Ascomycete, there is a pore present in the septa, and the most important septa is dolichopore septa, which is present in Basidiomycetes. In septa, the cap-like structure is present, which is surrounded by a membrane known as parthenosome. This septa is important. The hyphae in the fungi is further modified. Arrangement of hyphae is known as plectenchyme. First arrangement is prosenchyme. Here the hyphae are arranged in parallel manner. The arrangement is so clear that individual hyphae can be seen. Second is pseudoprosenchyme. The hyphae are intertwined and lose their individuality. Next type is rhizomorphs hyphae. The rhizomorph hyphae, the hyphae are intertwined in the cord-like manner. Fourth hyphal modification is sclerotia. The sclerotia is present in Claviceps purpura, which is ergot fungi. To survive the unfavorable condition, the fungal hyphae modified and store reserve food material in them, and when the favorable condition comes, they reproduce vegetatively via sclerotia. Next is aprisorium. It is found in the parasitic fungi for the attachment with the host. It results in the formation of infection tube to kill the host. After this, we have hyphal loops. It is seen in predaceous fungi. The loops are sticky so that it can easily attach with its target. Up next is VAMP, popularly known as vesicular or vascular mycorrhiza. Here, the hyphal thread invade the cortex of the root and form the vesicles or avasculus. This modification is seen in glomus fungi. Next is hearting nut, seen in the case of ectomycorrhiza. Here, the infection thread appears on the outer surface of the root of the plant with which it forms the association. Last hyphal modification है Hostoria. It is seen in the parasitic fungi and helps in the nutrition absorption. Fungi का cell structure देखें तो cell wall of the fungi is made up of chitin. Chitin is known as fungal cellulose. It is polymer of NAM, N-acetyl glucosamine. It is present in the all fungus member except the oomycetes, where cellulosic cell wall is present. The plasma membrane consists of lipids and proteins. In cytoplasm, the cell organelles are present and the Golgi bodies are monocisternae in nature. Reserve food material is oil and glycogen. Next is the mode of nutrition in fungi. The fungi are heterotrophic in nutrition. This heterotrophic mode of nutrition is divided into four major types. First one is the parasitic mode of nutrition. The parasite can be obligate parasites and facultative saprotrophs. Obligate parasites are the true parasite which serves as the parasite in their whole life and totally depend on the host on which they are living. Examples are Puccinia and Ravenalia. In facultative saprotrophs, when the host die, the parasite acts on their bodies to consume the food and acts as saprotrophs. This include Astilago, Mucor, Morchella and Agaricus. Second nutritional type is saprophytes. Saprophytes are those fungi which derive their nutrition from the dead and decaying organic matter. Saprophytes को भी obligate saprophytes और facultative parasites में divide करा है. Obligate saprophytes वो हैं जो completely saprophytes हैं in nature में, that is they derive their food only from the dead and decaying organic matter. For example, Agaricus, Mucor and Morchella. And the facultative parasites are the normally saprophyte, but when the dead decay matter is not available, they can also act as the parasites. Examples are Pythium and Fusarium. Fungi also obtain their food by forming symbiotic association. When the fungi form the obligate mutualism with algae, this association is named as lichen. Fungi also shows obligate mutualism with the root of higher plants like gymnosperms. This association is known as mycorrhiza. Lastly, we have predaceous fungi. These fungi derive nutrition by killing nematodes, rotifers and protozoa with the help of their sticky fungal hyphae known as hyphal traps. Examples हैं Dictylella, Dictylaris and Zoophagous. अब बात करते हैं फंजाई के रिप्रोडक्शन की, विच इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. फंजाई तीनों मोड्स वेजिटेटिवली, एसेक्सुअली एंड सेक्सुअली रिप्रोड्यूस करती है. एसेक्सुअल रिप्रोडक्शन इज absent in the class Basidiomycetes and the sexual reproduction is absent in the class Deuteromycetes. The important point is that as we go from the lower to higher class of the fungi, there is a degeneration of sexual reproduction. Talking about vegetative reproduction, it reproduces by the budding. Examples are unicellular fungi like yeast. Fission is seen in the schizosacromycetes, and the fragmentation occurs in the filamentous fungi like mucor. In mucor, the important point is that torula stage is seen. When we dissolve mucor in the sugar solution, it gets fragmented and break to form the torula. अब बात करते हैं asexual reproduction की. Fungi asexually reproduce करती है by forming mytospores by mitosis. The spore produced can be exogenous or endogenous. Exogenous are outside spores, whereas endogenous are inside spores. Exogenous spores thin-walled or non-motile होते हैं, and the endogenous spore can be motile or non-motile, thin-walled or thick-walled. Exogenous spores are conidiospores and oidia. Conidiospore is seen in ascomycetes and deuteromycetes, whereas oidia is seen in the zygomycetes. Based on the motility, the endospores are of two types. First one is the motile spores, which include zoospores. Zoospores are thin-walled spore and is seen in phycomycetes. Non-motile spores are sporangiospores and chlamydospores. Sporangiospore are thin-walled spore present in phycomycete and chlamydospore is present in astilago. There are different modes of the sexual reproduction in fungi. First हमारे पास है planogametic copulation. It occurs with the help of motile gametes. It is of three types: isogamy, anisogamy, and oogamy. In isogamy, the gametes are morphologically as well as physiologically similar. Example is syncytium. In anisogamy, male and female are both motile and are morphologically dissimilar in size. Example is allomyces. Oogamy is advanced type of heterogamy in which the male gamete is motile and the female gamete is non-motile and large. Next is the gametangial copulation. Here, the fusion of complete gametangia of male and female occur. Both the nucleus and the protoplasm fuses. Example are mucor and rhizopus. Third is the gametangial contact. The male gamete forms the connection with the female gamete by sending the fertilization tube inside the female gamete and transfer its nucleus in the female gamete. Examples are albugo, aspergillus, pythium and phytophthora. After this is spermatization. Spermatization में male gamete is non-motile, which is known as spermatia, and the female gametangia elongate and form a structure known as trichogyne. Spermatia by wind or water transfer to the trichogyne and fusion occur. Spermatization is seen in the higher fungi like basidiomycetes. Examples are Puxania, rust fungi. Somatogamy, two vegetative cell, that is somatic cell, take parts in the fusion of sex organs. The two somatic structure act as two different stain, that is one is positive and another one is negative, and takes the function of sex cell and fuse. Example include members of ascomycetes and basidiomycetes. Next we have sexual spores. Sexual reproduction is absent in deuteromycetes, so no sexual spores take formation in deuteromycetes. In phycomycetes, oospore is present in oomycetes and zygospore is present in zygomycetes. And in ascomycetes, the sexual spores are ascospores. These spores are produced inside ascus and are endogenous in nature. The spores of basidiomycetes are known as basidiospores. Basidiospores are exogenous in nature, produced on the basidium. Next is fruiting body. The sexual spores are protected by somatic cells known as fruiting body. This fruiting body is seen in ascomycetes and basidiomycetes. Fruiting body of ascomycetes known as ascocarp and that of basidiomycetes is known as basidiocarp. Ascocarp is also divided into three types. First one is the clistothecium, second is perithecium and third is apothecium. आप diagram में देख सकते हैं that sexual spores in clistothecium are protected by closed ascocarp. This closed ascocarp is seen in Aspergillus and Penicillium. When the sexual spore is protected by flask-like structure, it is known as perithecium, seen in Claviceps and Neurospora. In apothecium, the fruiting body is cup-like, present in Pizziza, Morchella and Escobolus. अगर हम टाइप ऑफ स्पोर्ट्स को समराइज करें तो फंजाई में हमारे पास डिफरेंट टाइप के स्पोर्ट्स हैं. फर्स्ट वन इज द अप्लानोस्पोर्स. अप्लानोस्पोर्स आर नॉन मोटाइल स्पोर्स. एग्जांपल्स आर स्पोरेंजियोस्पोर्स, कोनिडियोस्पोर्स, क्लेमाइडोस्पोर्स एंड उइडिया. Second is planospore, that is motile spores. Examples are zoospores. Most important is the endospore and exospores. Endospores include zoospores, sporangiospore, ascospores and chlamydospores. Conidiospores, oidia and basidiospores are the example of exospores. Mitospore include zoospores, sporangiospore and conidiospores. Meiospores are ascospores, basidiospores, oospores and zygospores. Example of binucleated spores are uridiospores, aciospores and talentospores. At the end of the lecture मैंने एक टेबल फ्रेम करा है जिसमें आप फंजाई के कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स को इजीली स्टडी कर सकते हैं. Now moving toward the classification of fungi, the first class is Phycomycetes. It is the lower class of fungi and the examples are Rhizopus, Alvugo, Mucor, Pythium, Phytophthora and Saprolignia. This class is aseptate, cenocytic, aquatic and has cellulose-rich cell wall. These are known as algal fungi. Three subclasses are there: Trichomycetes, Oomycete and Zygomycetes. In Trichomycete, all members are unicellular. Example is Syncytium endoviticum. This fungi is responsible for blackwort disease of potato. Mostly the fungi are pathogen and the diseases caused by them is important. In subclass Oomycete, the fungi is known as egg fungi. It reproduces asexually by forming zoospores or sporangiospores and sexually by oospores. The mode of the sexual reproduction is gametangial contact. Examples are Alvugo and Pythium. Third subclass is Zygomycete, known as zygote fungi. Asexual spore here are sporangiospores and oidia, and sexual spore is zygospores. It reproduces sexually via gametangial contact. Example is Rhizopus and Mucor. Some important examples of Oomycetes are Pilovolus, known as head thrower or shotgun fungi. Pythium cows damping of disease of tobacco. Phytophthora infestans cows late blight of potato responsible for eye-lined famine. Saprolignia is responsible for salmon disease of fishes. Alvugo candida cows white rust of crucifers. Sclerospora graminicola is responsible for green ear disease of bajra. And the examples of Zygomycetes are Rhizopus and Mucor. These are commonly called as bread mold. Rhizopus is known as common bread mold. Mucor is known as horse dung mold. And torula stage is seen in Mucor during fragmentation. Second fungal class is Ascomycetes. Major examples are Saccharomyces, Claviceps, Penicillium, Neurospora, Aspergillus and Pizziza. Ascomycete is commonly known as sac fungi and the cell wall is made up of chitin. Ascomycetes में non-mycelial and mycelial दोनों form exist करती है. Example of non-mycelium is unicellular form which is yeast. Rest of the fungi are mycelial and multicellular. Ascospore are produced in ascus. These are 4 in yeast and 8 in neurospora. The formation of ascospore in yeast is known as brachymeiosis. Important example of ascomycetes include: first is yeast, known as Saccharomyces cerevisiae. Yeast is vitamin B2 rich can be Wecker yeast or used in brewing purpose. Reproduce mostly by budding and the conjugation between parent and bud is known as paidogamy. Second is Claviceps purpurea, called as ergot fungi. This fungi yields the LSD. It is parasite of rye plant and causes ergot of rye plant. It reproduces by sclerotia. Third one is the penicillium. The first antibiotic penicillin is obtained from Penicillium notatum. Penicillium roqueforti and camemberti also yield cheese. These are flavored cheese. And the Grycifulvium yields the grycifulvin chemical. Fourth is Aspergillus. Aspergillus fumigatus is toxic fungi and cause disease in human and cattle. It affects the lungs. इसमें सबसे important है Aspergillus flavus. The toxin released from the Aspergillus flavus is aflatoxin. It causes liver cancer. Aspergillus gallomyces yields the gallic acid. Another important is Aspergillus niger, which is known as the bead of laboratory and yields the many acids like oxalic acid and citric acid. Edible species of Ascomycetes are morels and truffles, known as morchella or gucci mushroom. Ericyphe species is responsible for the powdery mildew disease. Third class is Basidiomycetes. It popularly include mushrooms. Examples are Agaricus, Puccinia, Astilago, Cythus, Lycoperdon, and Nudularia. Basidiomycete is known as club fungi. The septum is dolypod and the most important clamp connection is formed here. Examples include mushroom. Edible mushroom are Agaricus species. The poisonous mushroom are known as toadstool. It include Agaricus sylvestris and Amentia phylloides. Second example is bracket fungi known as polyporus. This fungi prefer to grow on wood. Third is puffballs. Examples are Lycoperdon and Clavacea. Cythus and Nidularia is known as bird nest fungi. Most important examples of this class is rust and smut. पक्सेनिया इज नोन एज रस्ट फंजाई. केसी मेहता ने पक्सेनिया की लाइफ साइकिल को स्टडी करा था. पक्सेनिया ग्रैमिनस ट्रिटिकाई इज रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर स्टेम रस्ट डिसीज. Complete its life cycle in two hosts. Primary host is wheat and the secondary host is barberry plant. Astilago is known as smut fungi. Professor J.C. Luthra developed a technique to control the smut in India. Astilago is responsible for loose smut of wheat, smut of maize and covered smut of barley. Last class of fungi is Deuteromycetes. Examples are Fusarium, Coletotrichum, Cercospora, Alternaria and Trichoderma. This fungi is known as fungi imperfecti as sexual reproduction is absent. Also called as dustbin of fungi. Examples mostly here are decomposers or predaceous in nature. Next one is Alternaria solanae. It causes early blight disease of potato. Coletotrichum falcatum is responsible for red rot of sugarcane. Helminthosporum oryzae causes leaf spot disease of rice, responsible for Bengal famine. Cercospora personata is responsible for ticca disease of groundnut. Fusarium udum causes wilt disease of pigeon pea. Trichoderma polysporum is important example as it yields a drug known as cyclosporin A. This drug is immunosuppressive agent and suppress the T-cell mediated immunity so that T-cell can't do graft rejection. Fusarium moniliformis is responsible for the discovery of gibberellic acid. It causes vacanic disease known as foolish seedling disease of rice. मैंने आपके रिवीजन के लिए एक टेबल भी ऐड करा है क्योंकि फंजाई में बहुत ही कंफ्यूजिंग एग्जाम्पल्स रहते हैं. दिस टेबल विल हेल्पफुल फॉर योर क्विक रिवीजन. मैंने फंजाई के इंपॉर्टेंट जेनेरा जैसे रिजोपस और म्यूकर को डिस्कस नहीं करा है. अगर हमारे पास टाइम बचता है तो हम उनके इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट्स को भी देख लेंगे. सो दिस इज द एंड ऑफ द लेक्चर वन शॉट ऑफ फंजाई. If you find this video helpful, subscribe my channel. My name is Anna Sharma and thanks for watching.